Welcome back to the show. Out of the Mouth of Babes. A few weeks back, we asked a panel of teen drivers to be very honest and frank with us.
Here's an eye-opening moment. What kind of mistakes do you see people making consistently with young drivers?
I'd say breaking the restrictions, and because when we get our license, you have restrictions like you can't stay out past 11, you can't have so many people in the car.
You can only have one, I think, besides yourself, right?
So I think that's something that teens seem to be breaking a lot.
And you see them do that quite a bit?
Yeah.
So honest.
Yeah, well, we're back with Anne Scallon from the organization Before the Wheel to discuss phasing privileges for teen drivers. What'd you think of that? You thought they were pretty open and honest, right?
I did, and I thought they really talked about important things. And when Molly said about the restrictions, I said, "Oh my goodness."
Molly was the blonde,
Molly Burns.
teenager,
right, the blonde teenager,
and
she had said that the teens are not following the restrictions. And one of the things that I have found by interviewing teens and parents is sometimes the parents are not supporting the restrictions.
Oh, like what? Give an example of a restriction you hear is broken often.
The number of passengers.
Okay, that's the main
it's
one.
very inconvenient for parents and teens to have to keep separating everyone in the cars. So they want to go through with their carpool, their sporting events and everything, and just put everyone in the same car and forget about it. And you have to remind parents, this is the first law that your teen is going into adulthood, is being asked to follow. And if you're saying, you know what, you don't really need to follow that, where do you go from there when they start speeding and start doing other things? So parents really need to support those laws. They have changed the statistics a lot for teens. They are the #1 safety factor, is reducing the passengers and keeping the teens off the road between midnight and 5 a.m.
Well, you think even as a parent sometimes, maybe you have 3 kids and finally you're excited that the oldest one can drive the other 2 to school, something like that. So are you finding that it's more about friends or that it's more about function, that they're breaking the restrictions?
They can actually drive their siblings to school.
They can, okay.
Yes, it's unrelated passengers.
Gotcha.
They cannot have more than 1 unrelated passenger.
Okay.
And yes,
And how long is that for?
It's for the first 9 months in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So each state has kind of a different level of their restrictions, but for Wisconsin, it's the first 9 months.
Well, then there's no excuse to break it.
Yeah. Well, and you're totally immersed in all this stuff. You know the laws, you know the restrictions, you talk to teens, you have your newsletter. Was there anything the panel said, though, that surprised you as it relates to teen habits and driving? Any surprises?
I didn't think so. I mean, I also thought the 18-year-old, was that Matt? He brought up some really good things about how the teens, he had so many friends who got in accidents.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a big statistics, that a lot of teens get in accidents that first year. And he's like, well, I'm stuck driving them around. So it was kind of funny the way he approached it.
Yeah.
But again, it's going back to restrictions and phasing privileges. When I asked my daughter at the 9-month period, when she had been driving 9 months and most of her friends had, I said, which friends got in accidents? And she told me it was like 3 to 5 friends.
Wow.
Every single one of them was in the group that got full privileges right away.
Really?
Yes.
Fascinating.
It was, of course, that's not a scientific study,
No,
but you know,
it certainly
it
is
just shows
potential
that
correlation.
It shows that you got to measure it. You know,
Right,
it can't be
exactly.
everything all at once.
Right. Exactly.
Where is parents? I mean, there's a lot of parents home today watching, a lot of teens too, but they're home. Where do I put my emphasis? You know, I always hear from parents, pick your battles, you know?
Right,
so
right.
if there's all these things that you've got to enforce or restrict, where should you really focus?
I think a good focus is that, we've talked about it before, that sitting down and having a good conversation with your teen. And if you come in with that relaxed tone, and instead of saying, you know, we're going to talk about phasing privileges or restrictions or limiting, forget it. Don't start out that way. So you can say, you know, we go back and forth to such and such movie theater. We go back and forth to such and such friends, to school, to these sporting locations. How comfortable are you with all those? And then go over the roads that are used. You know, I used to live out west, and Capitol Drive was a big road. Well, now it's got like 3 lanes on each side. It's a very big, but it does have a lot of stop and go, so it's very regulated, even though there's some speed involved. So it's talking to that teen and saying, you know, are you comfortable out? Do you feel comfortable out on your own? Going back and forth, and that helps you kind of tailor it for that teen. So for the first 3 months, you're going to be able to go to school, work, sporting events, and these 3 friends. And then teens always have some friends that live way out there, and that might not be ones they can drive to on their own that first few months.
I think that's great to make it graduated, and I think that's a whole key.
And
is giving
tailored.
them,
Yeah, it's not never.
right,
Exactly.
It's in a few months.
right, and to reward what you see as positive behavior, like always wearing the seatbelt, not having any accidents, not having any speeding tickets or parking tickets, maybe even
No texting or cell phones. And again, even that's not listed on the graduated driver license, but it is a click it or ticket.
Yeah.
And for teens, it's an extension of the limited privileges. So if they are pulled over and even one person in their car is not wearing a seatbelt, they're going to get a 6-month extension on their restrictions.
Wow.
Also, if they're texting or talking on the telephone, they're going to get a 6-month extension on their privileges.
Wow.
As it should be, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
In California, you
Tough stuff
can't
to
even
learn.
hold your phone, or you can get pulled over. It doesn't matter what you're doing on it. You don't even have to be using it. You know,
Exactly.
Pretty
so
strict.
I think the stricter the better, really, when it comes to that. Here's the information for Before the Wheel, so you can find out more about all great things that Anne does, as well as how to enforce some of these graduated privileges as well. BeforeTheWheel.com. Thanks so much, Anne.
Great
Thank
to see
you.
Thank you so much.